If you think you're shopping freely, you're not. The store is running a system on you, lighting, layout, music, and signs to make you spend more. Here are the biggest traps and how to beat them. The first trap has no price tag, no sign, and no shelf. It works through the nose, and it starts before a single product gets looked at. Most grocery stores position their bakery or rotisserie station right near the front entrance. That is not about giving shoppers a warm welcome. That is a scent strategy. When the brain picks up the smell of fresh bread or roasted chicken, it triggers a hunger response, even in someone who finished eating an hour ago. And a shopper who feels hungry, even slightly, makes fundamentally different purchasing decisions. More items, larger sizes, more impulse picks. Some stores take it further, engineering ventilation systems that push warm bakery air toward the entrance. The shopper smells the bread before seeing a single aisle. The defense here is not about willpower. It is about biology. Eat something small before the trip. A handful of crackers, a piece of fruit in the car, anything that tells the brain it is not running on empty. That one move quietly disarms the most invisible trap in the building. Now look at this layout. This is a simplified version of how most American grocery stores are organized, and the pattern is almost universal. The items nearly every shopper needs on every trip, milk, eggs, bread, butter, are placed at the farthest possible points from the entrance and from each other. Getting all four requires walking through nearly the entire store. This is not disorganized stocking. This is a funnel. The store is designed to maximize the distance between essentials because every extra aisle a shopper walks past is another wall of products competing for attention. Another end cap, another sale sign, another opportunity for something unplanned to land in the cart. The data on this is consistent across decades of retail research. Time spent inside the store is the single strongest predictor of total spending, not income, not list length, time. Beating the funnel does not require speed, it requires a route. Knowing where the essentials are before walking in and moving from point to point without detours cuts exposure dramatically. Think of it as having a flight plan instead of wandering the terminal. End caps, those big product displays at the end of every aisle, are one of the most misunderstood features in a grocery store. Most shoppers assume an end cap means a deal. The product is stacked high, the signage is bold, and the whole setup screams special price. But here is what is actually happening behind the scenes. Brands pay grocery retailers for end cap placement, sometimes thousands of dollars per week per store in major chains. That space is purchased advertising, no different from a billboard on a highway or a banner ad on a website. The product does not have to be discounted to earn that spot, it just has to be paid for. Now notice how this changes the math. Same product, same ounces, same price. The end cap added nothing except the illusion of value. Can end caps sometimes feature genuine discounts? Yes, and absolutely. But the assumption that end cap equals deal is exactly what the placement is designed to create. The only way to verify is to check the regular shelf price in the actual aisle. 10 seconds of comparison. That single habit saves real money over a year of shopping trips. Shelf placement inside a grocery store works exactly like ad placement on a website. The prime real estate, the spot the eye goes to first, costs the most and gets the highest margin products. In a grocery aisle, that means the third and fourth shelves from the floor, roughly chest to eye height for an average adult. That is where the most expensive per unit name brands sit, not because they are the best match for the shopper, but because the brand paid for that position. The cheaper alternatives, store brands, generics, value sizes, get pushed to the bottom shelf, where reaching them takes effort, or the top shelf, where seeing them requires looking up. Now notice this. The unit price, cost per ounce or per count, is the single most valuable number in the store. The big number tells a shopper what leaves the wallet. The small number tells what actually comes back in value. And those two stories are often very, very different. Training the eye to read the small number first turns every shelf in the store from a trap into a tool. Now, the signs. Every one of these is designed to trigger a specific behavior, and the language does the heavy lifting, 10 for $10. Notice how the number 10 is the loudest part of that sign. Most shoppers assume all 10 must be purchased. They're rarely true. One item typically rings up at $1. But the high number acts as an anchor. Research consistently shows shoppers buy more units when exposed to a larger number on the sign. 10 is not a requirement. It is a suggestion to wear a costume. Limit 4 per customer. There is no real shortage. The limit manufactures urgency where none exists. Shoppers who see a limit consistently buy closer to that number than shoppers who see no limit at all. And buy one, get one free. A strong deal, but only when two were needed. If only one was on the list, BOGO just doubled the spend. The store moved 2 units. The word free just made it feel painless. Here is a side-by-side that reveals one of the quietest tricks in the store. Same 12 items, 2 different containers. In the large cart, the brain reads, "Barely started shopping, plenty of room, keep going." In the small basket, the brain reads, "Full, time to check out." This is not about physical space, it is about visual feedback. The brain uses how full a container looks to gauge whether shopping is done. A big cart with room to spare sends a subconscious signal to keep adding. That is why grocery carts have gotten noticeably larger over the past 2 decades, and it has nothing to do with customer convenience. For any trip with a list under 15 items, a small basket, or no container at all, eliminates the illusion. Arms are a natural, honest feedback system. They get heavy, they send a clear signal, a cart never does. And this connects directly to the most invisible leak in any grocery budget. Not the big-ticket items, not the roast or the laundry detergent. The small ones, the $3 this, the $5 that, the $4 why not tossed in without a second thought. Individually, none of these registers is real spending. The brain does not sound the same alarm for a $4 item as it does for a $20 one. That is what makes them so effective and so expensive over time. $2,600 a year. Not on groceries that were planned for and used, on impulse, items that were grabbed in passing and forgotten by the following Tuesday. That is not a budget line, that is a slow bleed, and the only thing that stops it is a rule. If it is not on the list, it does not go in the cart. No exceptions. No, just this once. The list is the boundary. This is the final zone, and per square foot, it generates more profit than any other space in the building, and there is a very specific reason why. By the time any shopper reaches checkout, the brain has been making decisions nonstop since walking through the doors. Which brand, which size, which version. Buy it or leave it. Every single one of those micro-choices burned a small amount of cognitive fuel, and by checkout, the tank is close to empty. This is called decision fatigue, and the grocery industry has studied it more than almost any other retail sector. The checkout lane is engineered to exploit the precise moment when the brain's ability to resist is at its lowest. Every item in the checkout zone shares 3 features. It is inexpensive, cheap enough to avoid triggering a deliberate spending evaluation. It is impulsive. No one plans to buy gum at the start of a shopping trip. And it is positioned at hand height, physically easy to grab without breaking stride. This is not just clever placement, this is behavioral architecture. The entire lane is a final extraction system, designed to capture whatever loose spending the rest of the store left on the table. The counter move is not about having more willpower at checkout. Willpower is the resource that is already depleted. That is the whole point. The counter move is a hard rule decided in advance. The checkout lane is a wall. Nothing gets picked up, nothing gets browsed. Eyes go to the phone, or the cashier, or the conveyor belt. The decision was already made before arriving, and a decision made in advance does not cost any energy to follow. That is the entire system, every zone, every trap, and the thinking behind each one. All of it comes down to 3 rules, simple enough to remember in the parking lot, powerful enough to change what the receipt looks like at the end. Rule 1. Build the list at home, and only buy what is on it. Home is where the brain is clear, calm, and not surrounded by 10,000 engineered distractions. That is where the real decisions belong. The store is just the pickup point. Rule 2. Read the unit price. The small number on the shelf tag, not the big one. That tiny cost per ounce or cost per count figure is the only number in the entire store that tells the truth without framing, without design, and without an agenda. Once a shopper sees it, the shelf never looks the same again. Rule 3. The checkout lane is a wall, not a browsing zone, not a maybe just one thing opportunity. Everything in that lane was placed there for the version of the shopper who has no resistance left. Knowing that, truly understanding it, is the entire defense. One question before this ends: which trick is the hardest to resist? The smell at the entrance? The end cap that looks like a deal? The checkout lane after a long trip? Drop it in the comments. Every response gets read. And if this changed the way the grocery store looks, even a little, send it to someone who could use the same shift. Sometimes the most useful thing is just seeing the system for what it is.